Hey guys, it's me, Gypsy Danger. Sorry this is a little bit early, but I got a bunch of other stuff going on, so I mean, I just take it one day at a time. And sorry for apologies, but this week it's not exactly the Egyptians like I thought. You know, I it's this time it's Norse. The Egyptians will be next week, I swear. But a little background: the Norse pantheon is the most interesting one in my opinion because of the way the society worked back then. It was the Vikings were pretty much a war-faring group of people. That's how they made their living. They went out, they raided, they came back. They didn't manage. If they couldn't make a successful raid, they probably didn't eat for a while, or provide for a while. Anyway, so and of course, two, and of course, obviously with the whole popularity with Loki and Thor from the movies, this is not gonna be those two. This is the Loki. I'm gonna talk about the Loki and the Thor from the original, from the myths. And so here we go, and that brings me to my first one, Loki. Now, Loki, I had now that I look back on the Avengers, especially, I didn't see the first Thor. I mean, Thor was never my favorite Marvel character, but I digress. Anyway, Loki, especially in the Avengers, he's portrayed a lot of out of context is what he originally was to the Norse. In the movies, if you notice, he wants to conquer stuff. While yes, a lot of evil, gods and goddesses of Norse mythology wanted to do that, but it was mostly your frost giants. Loki, in the original myths, he was more content with just playing pranks. There was a reason he was called the trickster god. He could shapeshift, and in a lot of stories, he actually uses that to play pranks. He'd shift into somebody that, he just that's all he did. He was just chaos. He just wanted to create chaos, So, and he was, of course, the brother of Thor and the son of Odin, the Allfather. But anyway, so that's all he wanted to do. That's really all he wanted to do. He was never the most accepted of the gods. For that reason alone, he was, think about it. If you guys had a bunch of friends and one of them was notorious for playing pranks on anybody, maybe he would be. That is the same thing, But and of course, next is Thor. And Thor, especially in the Avengers, I wish I had the budget for it, but I don't. Eventually, someday, I might get the chance, talk about this kind of stuff, and something shows up. But I digress. Anyway, in the movie, if any of you have seen the Avengers, you'll know the scene I'm talking about, where Thor and the Hulk have their massive smackdown on the helicarrier, and Hulk manages to knock Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, out of his hand. Well, you guys must remember then the part following that where Hulk tries his hardest to pick up Mjolnir, and he doesn't even get it to budge. That is true. Legends always have said that Thor is the only one who can hold Mjolnir. Don't know how it does. How they explain. I don't know why. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I'm not game theory here. I'm not gonna, or myth theory or whatever theory. I'm just reporting it anyway. And he picked it up with the greatest of ease. And people like you and me, even the strongest behemoth, could never pick up Thor's hammer. So, and that brings me, of course, to Odin. Odin, he's called the Allfather because because he is the father of Loki and of Thor, and I believe a lot of the main gods and goddesses of Norse mythology. He's always depicted, and to be honest with you, Smite does a really good job on this representation. The eye patch, he's always been, and including Marvel. I got to give props to Marvel. They did a bang up job, especially on the appearance of Odin. Odin has been basically was told in legends told as being brilliant, being wise, the wisest of them all. He was obviously missing an eye, and his missing eye actually, he had a glass eye, and some stories that he could use to look into the future. Kind of, if you guys have ever seen Disney's Hercules, think the three Fate sisters with the one eye that the ladies that could use their eye to see in the future and were prophets for Hades. Think of it like that, except not three really old ladies, but one really old guy. And of course his horse. He's always had a horse. I cannot remember the name, but this horse had up to 8 legs. Can you imagine that? Anyway, so it must have been he was pretty inspiring. Of course, Loki had, 2 kids, a wolf and a female, and a woman who ended up having, one half, different 2 halves of her body, 2 different colors. Hell, first let's talk about Fenrir. I love him. Fenrir is the wolf. Legend has it basically that when Fenrir was born, the gods took him in as a puppy, believing he was going to be no harm. But when Fenrir started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, the gods became a little nervous because Ragnarok says that Fenrir will kill them all, basically. So they decided to bind Fenrir in the depths of the earth. So there's, before he got any bigger. Well, they did it, and Fenrir, being, a big guy, they made a challenge for him. They basically they told him, put this, rope on. We'll bind you with this rope, and if you can break it, you'll be called the strongest in the land. Or you will begin to be called the strongest in all of Midgard. So Fenrir said, "Alright, sweet. Just like that, all you gotta do is break this rope. Let's do it." So they tied him up. He bulked up, pushed with all his might and broke the rope. Just like that. Well, the gods looked at each other and were like, "Eef, we're gonna need something bigger." So they went to forgers and asked them to forge them a steel link chain, a nice long chain for it to bind Fenrir with. Fenrir said, "But you guys said if I broke this rope, I'd start to be called the strongest in the land." They said, "But if you manage to break this forged stain steel chain link, then you will will receive the title of the strongest ever on Midgard." And he said, "Alright, let's do it." So he let them once again bind him with the chain. He took one big breath, again muscled up and just pushed with all his might and broke the chain. All the gods all looked at him and said, "We're going to need something real strong." So they turned around, they went to the dwarves in the mountains and said, "We need you to forge us something that Fenrir can never break." So the story goes, the dwarves said, "We have an idea." So they took the roots of a mountain, the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, I know, the breath of a fish, and basically a lot of stuff that you wonder why they don't have, why they don't, all that kind of stuff, and forged it into a ribbon. And they gave it to the gods and said, "This will hold Fenrir until the end of times, until Ragnarok." And they said, "But it's a ribbon." They're like, "But it was forged with, they listed off the ingredients and like, you sure?" Like, the dwarves were like, "Yes, we are." So they went back to Fenrir and they told Fenrir, "We have one more challenge for you. If you can break this ribbon, you will be called the strongest in all time." And he said, "But it's a ribbon. This will be no challenge." They said, "How do you know if you don't try?" He said, "I got one condition though. One of you must put your hand in my mouth, for if I cannot break this ribbon, I will bite off his hand." And Tyr decided, you know what, it's got to be done. So he put his hand in the mouth of Fenrir. They wrapped the ribbon up. So Fenrir once again took one big breath, and he muscled and he pushed with everything he had, and he strained and he couldn't break it. And the gods were surprised. So was Fenrir. So Fenrir decided, well, maybe I did something wrong. Let me try again. Did it again. He grunted and he pushed with everything he had, and still the ribbon held strong. Well, Fenrir was so angry that the gods had tricked him that he just, boom, right down on Tyr's hand, taking it off. And the gods, so legend says that's where Fenrir stays, bound by the same ribbon, until Ragnarok, when he'll break his chains and come out and go out hunting. I know, scary, huh? That, and of course, Hel. Hel is the goddess of the underworld. Now, a lot of people think of the underworld as fire and flames and demons and, the devil and all that. Not the Norse. Norse believed that hell was basically froze over. So they gave new meaning to the term hell freezing over. Legend had it Hel was a beautiful woman. Half of her body was had black skin and white hair, and the other had Caucasian skin. And she guarded over the underworld. So, I mean, it's a lot of really interesting. I mean, it really is. And that's really about all I've got. I mean, once again, I'm sorry about, I didn't really think I was going to release one today, but, so, once again, this is the UN, episode number 3, we'll deal with the Egyptians. We're going to the desert. Not literally, but, you know what I mean. Anyway, alright guys, this has been your boy Gypsy Danger. I'll see y'all next time.